pretty fucking insane.
Yeah, it's
All
11
right.
to 16.
The environment.
I know
in terms
Warrior
of,
is
like the, process
the
of
hardest
you-
class to level,
You guys like.
but it's just like it's
an
an itch I just want to scratch.
What
I want to try
champions,
something
to play and so
in the
forth. Do you
game
think this is something that
new,
can be
and
recreated and achieved?
I want it to be
Yeah.
meaningful.
A
So
team
Warriors are the
environment?
end game meaningful class.
I mean, we had a lot of freedom
Fish for
And
Dr.
because
Fuck
of-
that
I
quest.
like the
I mean,
challenge
it's hard to say, right? Like I think
of
in
the
the
leveling
format
on that Warrior.
that is also right now
So-
really see.
What do I want to do?
Like, you
Less
need-
emotionally
I really wanna
attached to
do
this in
quests,
my
I wanna
rogue.
fuck
I'm
over
just
the
gonna
rest
It's
of
kind of
the
more
play and have fun.
often than not better to
And
just go
I gotta
for, like,
organize
the
my
safe
UI a
bets
bit.
all the time. I think because the season was so long,
Shit.
and basically a lot of it was meaningless in the old format. It gave us like opportunities to, well, also because within the limits of practice we could get in Europe, sometimes it was even more beneficial for us to experiment, and sometimes we did it too much as well, right? Like there's always a balance.
Screw it.
But I think it's like
Alright.
hard
You
for
left
teams
us
to
with
replicate
some
without
stream-
having like a lot of freedom
My monitor stuff
in
to set
your,
up.
basically your career, or like
okay.
how the
Listening to
how the year is gonna go,
Yamata
regardless
podcast
of
and Soda's
you
playing
maybe
hardcore.
wasting like a little bit of practice. that
First
could
new
have been spent,
character, a Night Elf
elsewhere, or,
Druid,
like
of course.
making sure you get into playoffs and stuff
Alright.
like this.
Heaven.
I think the format is just like very unforgiving in that sense, and also a lot of teams are not as
Bashaw
dominant,
Laran?
I guess. So it's
Okay,
kind
I
of
should go
hard to
north
recreate.
and kill the.
But it's definitely something you can recreate
Little
if you
fuckers
have
north.
like more time, I think.
That's definitely a good area to go for
Um,
XP.
Yeah, basically. I don't think there's much
Big
else
quest,
to that.
big
I think it
respawns.
also, if you have players, it's kind of hard to know if you have the players that like benefit from doing it as well. I think we just had like, we were just all five very
Big,
open-minded
big.
and actually enjoyed
All right.
playing something different.
Actually, let me roll the
So yeah,
coast, kill
I
some
mean, if
crabs
it
on the
came
way
to
north.
solo queue or if it came to
Alright.
competitive, but
Imagine
we
those
would
tag
always.
killers trolling me.
I mean, I say always, but sometimes, like
Ow.
for example, the Garen, I would have not played in advance, but we would always basically
Damn, it
have to
didn't
play
work.
it like either this champion solo queue or somewhere else before we pulled it off, right? Or in my case, I guess more often than the others, I would have
Any
played it out
clever
in my mind. I
legs?
guess
Yes,
works.
yes.
I do the fucking, what is it called, like the Queen's Gambit, just like sitting, lying there on my bed, fucking looking up at the roof.
Yeah,
no, but
yeah.
like, yeah, something along those lines at least.
Okay, okay. Now, I felt I like thinking about it. I think it's like Mickey, you, and Caps have always held on to that. I felt like Jankos and Perks were a little bit more conservative in what they.
Yeah, I think Jankos was like our, he was our like stable player in that sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Like he kind of sacrificed sometimes for our creativity. I mean, of course, like playing Braum and like Funnel and stuff, but besides that, like he played a lot of like Sejuani, a lot of like these champs that could just
Crawler
facilitate
claw.
us.
Where the fuck are these arms?
And he
I haven't
was
gotten
like a
single
very good
one.
jungler at
It's ridiculous.
not necessarily taking. Sometimes maybe he farmed
Where
too
are
little,
you
but he was
slide
good at like
bastards?
being aware of when to skip the what camps were
Deathlog,
necessary to skip
please.
to like basically keep the game alive or end the game for the other team and stuff like this, right? So yeah, I think that was like one of his good qualities,
There's
along
one.
with the
I
fact
got
that
one.
yeah, I mean
Ooh,
he
nice,
played a lot
3.
of the dog champs,
Excellent.
right? Like the Sejuanis, that kind of stuff.
I guess I mentioned that Perks was uncreative, but during his AD carry years, he was definitely
Yeah.
going
yeah.
going crazy.
Alright, and then we'll go to Bashaw
I think
Laran
probably
over
the
here.
from mid.
Zoes and the pikes.
We'll kill crabs on
I
the way
mean,
back.
it was a different meta back then as
Excellent.
well, right? Like even in 2018, like
Why is
like
it off
people were
screen?
playing the Akalis and the Urgots and all this even in mid lane, you know? Like I remember me and him in 2018, we were
Oh my God, I
also
can't.
lane swapping. Like matchups, like I remember playing into
I need to get a
what
rabbit
was
missile
it?
there, I think.
Kuro,
one,
I think,
please.
on Kassadin mid when I was playing Camille or some shit like that, and like completely stumping him because we were
Act like
lane
you
swapping.
don't want
So
them to
I mean,
help
we were
you. Now
definitely
instead
not.
of carried, they're
It was
griefing
definitely
you.
not
Dude, I'm getting so
uncreative.
grieved.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty creative as well.
Okay, okay.
What the heck?
Yeah, I'm thinking back at like, I guess G2 in like the 4 splits that they won before 2018 and 2019 were more of the stable kind of team that wanted
Pair,
to
Innkeeper.
like just find
Yeah.
repetition in something.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. And probably even then, probably Perks was like the most creative out of those. Like, like he was playing like Echo and stuff. I mean, that was the meta, right? But this was like, yeah, I guess back then, their other members were a lot more like stable, consistent.
No, that's fair. That's always
I
fun
got
to follow.
1
It's
XP
like
for
even
that.
in
These
our
are my
most recent
ideal
game,
for
we
starting
always
If
had,
they don't
setup.
let me get it 60%,
cool
that shit
ideas
is over.
on how you wanted to approach things. It was the Shyvana in the back pocket, but I was limiting you a lot. I was talking about the recipe.
Stance bar.
No, I mean,
we would
within
win games.
yeah, that's what I said, right? Like, if you're on a team that can afford to,
Wait, what am I doing?
I
How did
mean,
I go all
also
the way
like
over
afford in standings wise, but also afford
Oops.
like mentality wise. Like
I
if
was looking at the swords, I wasn't
if
looking at the quest turn in.
me
Oopsie.
picking, or like me or a certain other player picking like a random champion, when scrims are already going really fucking well, and then even though it might not be the issue that we are losing scrims, but then like the game or whatever, that I pick a random champion, but then people are still gonna start questioning like, why are we even playing this when we can't even win with like
Time to wing it
the
and
good
kind
stuff,
of.
you know? Like there's
I don't know
always
the
like a lot
ultimate
of
pap
random
thing.
factors
Yes,
that
this
goes
guy
into
right
playing
here?
like something new that people
Where-
don't usually play.
It's
Where's the
definitely like you need to
Oh,
create
I'm an idiot. He's up there. That's right. Okay.
your
My
own
brain was fucking
luxury
off.
in the
Is it
fact
outside?
that
It probably
like,
is, right?
having the energy and the time
I'm
and
so dumb.
the
And my
effort
trainer's over
to
here.
invest into
Straightforward
something
enough.
that's a luxury you can't randomly find when the season has started. It's like that needs to be put in place ahead of time, and then you need to buy that time through winning pretty much. And we were always, especially in summer, we're like on the back foot, and we also, as we were on the back foot, we also were in that position where our scrims were not what we wanted them to be, and we had zero energy or effort to invest. We had to put anything extra in like maintenance. It's like we had to hold
Yeah.
on to what we had.
And I think also like some teams, if it's like coaching or staff or players, like some teams just require like a lot more convincing than others, right? And I think in G2, none of us required to be convinced. You know,
don't
we
need
were
those
just
guys
like,
yet,
yeah,
but I
sure,
might as
do
well,
it.
I guess.
Like that was basically the thought process, and that
works.
I mean, it makes sense to
Damn, it is tough to get these guys
kind of
to
like police
60%.
it.
I think I'm just
but-
gonna wear the
but
stamina
I guess with our
or Int
team,
and Spirit gear.
just the luxury
just
we had
for
of like
uptime.
all being very good, it was just
These
not
Moonfires
necessary,
don't do
right?
anything.
But there's a potential of it being like too much as well if if
maybe
the
they
players
do, I
are just
don't
not
know.
good enough. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty much what I
Rap.
said already.
No, you might be right. Maybe I should be rapping.
Before I unravel
Even
the
then, it's
whole
like it's gonna cost
your,
mana. I'm
your
just gonna go.
Fnatic journey now in summer in the playoffs,
I can't hear
That
any
was
of
a
the
trick.
swings.
or give you
No.
a take that I have, and then get your opinion on
We
it,
just need
because
a
I
cut
think that
killer
you're
to
the,
spam
you're the
me.
best person to bring this
That
up
would be
to.
big.
So my take is
Save me a lot of
that
mana.
the gap between the West and the East, ever since it started back in like season 3 essentially,
So
right?
artistic.
I think that the gap has never been closed, and as everything progresses due to the amount of resources and the amount of players and the mentality and the culture and all of these things that
Ooh.
put
I got you 60
the Chinese
Dark Shore
teams and the
groupers
Korean
for the
teams in a favorable position. The gap will continue to widen, and even my take here is that
Quest?
even in the
Oh,
context
huge.
of
Big XP?
2018 and 2019, that the gap was still wide in what
I
the
feel like
expected
what I'm doing right now
turnaround should
is
be
some like
as the year
leveling
unfolds.
tournament
Because my take
where like
is
you're allowed to
that
prep as much as you
2019
want
G2
for like leveling as
was
quick as you can.
an outlier
Only I'm retarded.
on so many levels in terms of where the meta was, how the roster aligned, and also
Nice.
factors
I've got people
that
set up for
mattered
summons
globally,
and like
because,
min-maxing my
for
movement
example,
to get to places quicker.
Korea was
Mob
on the
tagging,
downturn,
obviously.
and they were just waiting for
then I'm, like, walking
the
the wrong way
sandbox
for
and
a
the
quest,
Griffin and
wasting,
the
like, half
Damwon
an
to
hour.
actually come out of Challenger and like rise and become like
Shit.
actual strong players, right? And then there was the turmoil of the IG roster, right? That was the promised roster, and that came into that year. And then at the same time, you guys coming together as a roster. It's like a roster coming together. There's a lot of fucking moving pieces in terms of
BFD
contracts, in terms of timings, in terms
Ooh.
of agreements. It's
You're
like
right.
that G2 roster is such a
BlackRock
fucking heavy
champions, the Witch,
outlier
Sea Reaver.
that
3
I
people
can't
died.
use
Oh,
it
fuck,
as
wait.
an argument for
Nope.
the gap being closed for
36
some reason,
mage,
right?
Eastern Kingdom.
Because that result
Was it only 3 of them?
was heavily hinged on all of these factors that went in the direction of, let's say, Europe at the time. Do you see what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, like, there's no question that
Harry.
right now the gap is like bigger than it was in 2019 between like, but in 2019 the gap was also big, just not between like.
Have you seen the Guzu death? Yes, I have.
I guess the the G2 and the Eastern teams, but between like if you took a random like if you took like a fourth place
Hang on, I'll get
Korean
it to
team or
60%.
Chinese
Hang on,
team
there we
against
go.
the European fourth place team, the gap would be like probably as big as it is today.
Couple more autos here. Alright, just one more.
Maybe like a little, not as big, but almost as big.
Nice.
And I think, I mean, for sure, like as you said, the
Ooh.
2 biggest things are probably like,
Level 11.
well, for one, the
What?
culture,
Crazy.
which is also in a weird way a thing that maybe have held them back as well. Because I mean, as we already touched on, like in G2 we were like very free and creative, which back then this sense I'm feeling without knowing too much about how.
It's like
it
my energy,
in
my
Korea
rage now
especially
stays even after I fight,
was
whereas
that
my
it
combo
was, like,
points on the
very
rogue always
coach
disappeared.
final word.
For sure, yeah.
And you kinda are, you live within that frame, you know.
2 XP.
So in a way, it's like I think in a way that us being good in 2019 kind of also. I mean, I don't watch anime or something. I don't want to make it sound like a fucking anime as well. What happens, but Korea and basically and China
I dare
as
you
well
to
have
solo
probably
a level
like
12
leveled
mob.
up
Okay.
from like seeing how we play.
Whoa,
sure.
whoa, what's it gonna be
And,
like?
I mean, this
Can
would
I
have
do
happened
it?
probably regardless, right? Just one team just had to be the one that like kind of broke out of the frame of how they felt like the game should be played and viewed, which just happened to be, I guess, us in that year. But now it's like
Fuck,
even
it's only
harder.
one
Like
earring.
now they have
This is
basically
pretty
got
efficient.
that information, that knowledge, and you can't really replicate the same thing. You know, you need to do something else now if you're a team that wishes to beat. Well, you need to beat them and better, or you need to like do something special that they haven't seen before, which is like kind of hard to do in season 13 or whatever the fuck we're playing now. So I think for sure it's like it looks a bit not doomed,
Big crit.
but with the
Alright, I gotta
money,
kill the archer
culture,
dudes.
and the amount of players that they have in the region, it's
Might get lucky
it's
and
like
get it first try.
there needs to be a very special team put together to beat that, you know.
100%.
Somebody tag that one
It's
when
also
I
just
normally
like
get.
to even when there's already like great teams within the region, to have other teams pursuing those players and those teams within that region is also such a strong like a factor, because it's like
Definitely.
the years like 2018 2019 where Fnatic was great and then you guys were great too, and also 2020, it's like I felt like just because you guys were in the mix, that also just made the region a lot better in general, right? Because there's a clear mission to beat a team that is insanely
This guy
good,
died from
and
falling.
the improvement steps become so much more obvious when you're faced with that resistance.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, yeah, of course, like the practice is way better for them, but also since I guess winning worlds is like seen
What's
as
a
an
health pot?
unrealistic goal for like a lot of players
What? Target dummy?
in
The fuck?
the Western teams. Getting like a good roster together is also way harder, right? Because then
Yes,
people
yes.
will value like money and all this kind of stuff just a little bit more. I'm not saying like that everyone values money more than what people they play with, but I could imagine comparatively
have
to
thorns
like
on
some of the Asian leagues where like a lot more people, I would probably bet that a lot more people than in the Western leagues would give up their entire salary just in the chance that they would win worlds, you know, because the chance is actually more visible to them
Yes.
than for Western players, right? And that makes like that just gives like a different vibe as well to some of these teams that are being made, you know.
No, for sure. Agreed, and it makes perfect sense too that it is
That's
the
an
way.
unfortunate
And I
miss.
wouldn't fault anyone for
Another
choosing
unfortunate
what they
miss.
prioritize, right? It's just Definitely. Like after 2019, like scrimming in Korea being Korea for
Crazy.
split, it was you could see that the pathway, especially with Damwon, was just different. It's like playing against those guys, I felt like it was different. I think DRX was also in that box. T1 held on to a lot of the old, and this was the time where they did like the crazy roster swaps.
Destroy the
But
ancient
even like
Gameplay
looking
feels
at
good so far.
now,
the
right?
approach to coaching, like there's a lot more
Fuck.
player coaches in Korea than it was before.
Maybe now
and
I go back
a lot of
and
the
I just
teams,
follow
I get the
Resident
impression
X at
are
this point.
more player driven.
That's probably
and
the
some
right
of the
play.
coaches that were known as very, very stern, harsh coaches, they are not at the top
Hey, can you
anymore.
get me
Like I
summoned
think
so I can heal?
the name that comes to mind is like Coach Kim. It's like
is that
when I asked
Warlock? If
Gorilla
you're
about
still,
Coach Kim, so he
for
was
some
on
reason
IG
AFK, you
and
wanna
he was
summon
on
this Pally?
Monzu
Fat
and he was on
Riz?
Samsung. Like he had a fucking
Level
he has
21.
a fucking reputation. But when I asked Gorilla about him, basically his nickname was Genghis Khan. Like this guy was Genghis Khan. Imagine having that nickname in the context of coaching players. Like he
Holy
was
fuck. Insta respect when Genghis Khan walks into the room. Like,
100%. And then there was like the whole drama with the
Took one off
T1, and I
slacking,
think that you know, he didn't want to. I
everyone
don't know
here's
the
so
whole
bored.
story about that, but I can like imagine how it played
Yeah.
out. And it's like now T1 is like they had the Bengi coach, and they just went in the player direction, and you could see that evolution, so to speak, is also like playing out, because it's like now as well the coach of Genji is Scout,
I guess level
right?
60 is
Not
fucking
Scout,
boring
sorry,
once you're
Score. And
It's like, all right,
there was
now
definitely
what?
like I think the 2019 year was a catalyst for all of that.
yeah. I mean, for like my view on like the coaching,
raid, yeah.
I mean,
But then you get
I
like
think
pre-range.
some
I guess
players
getting
do
pre-range
need
bits
like
has to be super duper
a
fun.
Genghis Khan, and some players do need like a more like
then once
laid
you
back
have it,
approach.
it's like,
Of course,
okay.
it just like really depends, and also depends on
Got
the
my
situation.
raid. That's about it though.
I think like, I mean, I'm not gonna sit. I'm of course like,
All right, I'm done. Excellent.
like I'm gonna word
Raiding
it
in
correctly.
hardcore seems
So
not fun.
because I actually
I bet
really
it is
do
fun, the fuck?
like respect grabs and everything, you know. But I think if you have 5 really really good players, they actually don't need anything. Like truthfully,
Farm
the
the
only
fuck out
thing
of
they
every
need
consumable
is
known to
someone
man.
to facilitate
Way more fun than
discussion
normal raiding.
and like make sure that
Probably.
whatever information is being like conveyed so everyone like understands it, and everyone, like, I mean, that's like a meme word, right? But it's on the same page, you know.
Yes, yes.
And everyone
2
like,
minute, it just stays up though.
Like you can
Pretty
have
easy.
and makes like sure that it's
We're doing a
presented in a way
GDKP
where yeah,
in like
basically just-
1.5 hours. I got to
it's
split.
it's like
I
it saves
fine.
a lot of time. I think the worst thing you can have when you have
Imagine
like
getting
5
Oxy
really
Session
good
hardcore.
players is
that would be pretty crazy.
like a
but-
coach
As long as I
that
fight within my levels, this
tries
class
to
is
I
pretty
can't
good,
fathom
right?
doing
limits
hardcore
the
for that
players and
long.
also takes up a lot of time and like puts a lot of unnecessary stress on the players that yeah, I mean, well, as I said, is unnecessary. But like there are also teams where you have, for example, 2 really good players who maybe are not as reliant on like a coach, and I think coach can always be helpful almost no matter how good you are, right? But
Charge
it's
and run
just
level
a
4.
different way of helping.
People
But
said
then you can
Ren's
have a team with 2
worthless,
really
right?
good players, and you can have a team that maybe has a really bad like mid jungle,
A lot
and
of people are just
there a
transferring their
coach can
teams
be
to
more
Classic
useful
era
or
after they
like
die anyway.
dedicate more of his time, right?
Yeah,
This
but I
is
feel like
just
no one's
I mean,
actually
you know
playing
this
over
well,
there.
like when you're coaching teams.
Are
that
they?
Some weeks you don't even look at
I'd be
jungle, for
surprised.
example. If jungle is like really smurfing, you look at how maybe the bot lane is
Maybe
playing,
some
or
are,
like
but
try and figure out how to like fix the issues. But yeah, I think that's like my main take on it is that
Let's go finish this and get level 4.
yeah, I think the game has gotten to a point that if you are like a good player, I mean, you don't have to know everything within the game, but you know, like, you need to know without someone telling you what like the big points of the game is and how to play it. Where I think like back in season 6, season 7, you could get away with like not knowing like a lot about the game at all, right? And
Yes,
just
yes.
being good at the game. But now it's like you need to have both.
nice.
And I think a coach can help with that, but you can't ever be dependent on a coach. I think right now to like teach you the game, because then you would never make it in the first place.
No, I agree with you completely. It's like
Alright, I gotta get
there's a big difference between
Need laborers.
like an elite player where you are confident that they will figure out what needs to be figured out, because it's like most of the time, for example, when we worked together in the most recent year, it's like my purpose there is to provide maintenance and to
Ooh, I don't have
make
anyone here.
any step that you
Alright, I gotta
need
play
to go
this shit
through
normal as fuck.
easier. It's
Yeah.
not about me teaching you something. That's not going to be the case. It's like in a lot of cases, it's like, oh, Wunder, tell me about this matchup. What did you find? Can you tell me what's up, or what do you need? And then it's like, you educated me on something, because it's like a strong player is always going to be like right at the front of the line, exploring what's coming next. And and as you mentioned as well, like it's like in some cases, oh, there's a fire here that you need to solve.
I'm not gonna
then
need
you
any
just
heals.
kind of engulf yourself in
If
that,
I'm not
and
getting
then you
mob
can,
tagged, like, all the way,
you
I
should
don't
be
even want heals. I'd rather
capable
just do it normal at that
of
point.
applying yourself to something and understanding it
G.
inside
I only
out.
can play for like another
Like if you, for
hour and a
example,
half
told me,
anyways, so.
Yamaro, tell me about this matchup, I'd say, oh, maybe I don't know
No more
now,
help.
but I can think
gonna do
about
it
it for maybe 30
like
minutes,
normal.
maybe look up some solo queue votes, look at what people are playing, and then I will have a very, very strong opinion. It's like if there's a piece of information that
You
is
are getting
needed,
tags and heals? Oh,
you need to
guys
have the
are summoning-
capacity
okay,
to
cool. All right.
process that
Let's go.
information, which is like crucial. And at the higher end of players, I think, as you mentioned, it comes down to making the life of the players as easy
I love
as
you.
as,
You
as
come
humanly
Stormwind
possible,
tonight or
and
no?
that can be like in very, very
Good. I don't know.
different forms if you have a player that is like capable of performing. And easier can sometimes mean also making it harder if it is a person that needs that in order to like perform. Some people need a hard hand, some people need a soft hand, but when you have players that are really, really good at the game, like maintenance, making sure that nothing ever slips in terms of, like, let's say you're performing super, super well, and then I notice that you begin
Just
to play
run off
less,
straight to the
and
back.
maybe you are like, let's say a player is like more tired coming into the office, and
That's
I notice
fucked up.
like things are slipping. It's like that's where you know, things can come in, and making sure that
Damn it, there's a
the
crawl blade
structure
on
that
that
you've
guy.
created for yourself is maintained, rather than enforcing some kind of structure onto you.
Nice, I got it.
It's like this is how you perform, and you're aware of it, and supporting in that is it's like usually what it comes down to. And what that structure is, it's like that's what is very, very individual, I think.
I need to get a
I agree.
rabid thistle bear.
Okay. No, it's like on my end, as you mentioned yourself, it's like
I know I went too far
in
in.
order
I just wanted
for,
to keep going. See at the end.
region
now
that
what else do you
is
want me to do?
inferior
Find and
by
discover
every
the
metric,
Furlbog camp. Okay.
you need
Ooh.
to create and find a very, very extreme outlier in order
Level
to win. And there's
14.
many ways of things becoming freak outlier cases. It's like last year at Worlds, even us, we were going through freak cases. It's like we had players that had COVID, and then we play with rocks. It's like that's a freak case, and it's like DRX won, and that's a fucking complete freak case in terms of how everything played out.
Not
It's
getting
like
my level 4
EDG
abilities.
with 2-0 up, and then they like collapse within that best of 5. Like a lot of things need to go so right, and there's examples of that in like real
now
life
what?
too,
Grind
in
until
other
you're
contexts. It's
1500
like,
XP off
like
of level
Dagestan, they
12.
produce the best wrestlers ever, but that's a
So,
country that
alright,
have no
it's still
fucking
insane.
money, and they just have a way of training and a way of life that supersedes and conquers all in
Give me a
terms
bag.
of wrestling. When there's like countries in the world that spend millions and billions, and they have so many athletes, and they have programs and everything set up, but they're just doing worse because they figured out something.
At this
There's an
point,
example of, I believe
wanna
there's
get
a
level 12, and
university
I just
in
wanna go to that
Japan that
Furlbog camp.
produces on average the most
Wow.
Nobel Prize winning
I don't know what you want me to do with this.
like students, and there has to be. It doesn't mean that they have the most money. Maybe they do now.
I don't need that. I
It
don't
doesn't
need
mean
that
that they have
either.
the most students or the most
I don't need-
resources.
well, I
Just
take the health
it's
pots.
in the
Keep
way
lying.
that they have conducted
Alright, what am I doing
themselves, making
Ooh,
them
Hellstone.
into
What am I doing here?
an actual outlier.
Am I
And I think that's
grinding?
what's required. Like whether it's in game or situations playing out a very certain
Jeez
way, and not
Louise.
to take anything away from you guys
I
winning
assume I'm
MSI.
going Furlbog
It's like
camp for
you guys
big
really
respawns and
insane. The
big
best of
XP.
5 against SKT is like one of my favorite best of 5s ever. but then you walk into the finals
me
and
turn
you
these
play
in and
against
see
Team
what kind
Liquid.
of
You know,
XP
it's
Yeah.
like IG. What the fuck happened to IG that year? You know, it's a mystery. Like I don't know who insulted
Yeah, for
someone's
sure.
mother. You know, but
I
there's-
mean, yeah. The best thing you can do is just make sure that you are there when the variants hit. You know, because
Yes, yes.
I mean, in 2019 as well, like the World Finals. In theory, you can make the argument that
Clench 20 Rabid, whatever the
there
fuck.
only needed to
I'll
be
see on my
Alright,
guide
level
not
says
an
that,
FPX there,
well.
and we would have won. You know.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
Damn, pretty
I mean,
much.
in 2018, FPX was not even a team, you know. Like
Well,
yes,
they
yes.
were not.
Alright, nice. Level
They were
12
not
then.
actually relevant. So I mean, they were a team probably. I don't actually know, but they were not relevant at least internationally. So like you could make the argument that just like a few things has to go right for us to have actually won a world, you know.
Yes, yes.
And this is always going to be the case as long as you are there to grab the opportunity when it happens. And I think that's like the best thing.
Fuck.
Well,
Ooh,
that's the thing
Blessing
you
of
should probably
Wisdom?
strive for, yeah.
Holy
I don't think
shit.
you can make a
Wait,
team
this
that will for
actually
sure
might
make
be
it because
insane.
everyone is going to try to make it, and you're going
Oh,
to play
fuck.
against
Nothing
a
really
lot
about
more
Ryan.
Eastern
Nothing
teams that
good,
are actually built
I'm
to
getting
win
orbited
worlds
hard
than you are
at
going to
solar
play against
system.
Western teams that are built to win worlds. That's just the reality of it.
Nice.
Yes, yes. And
Alright, Furl
it's
Bog
like
time.
there's the saying, right? That luck is where
Fish quest? I already turned that shit
opportunity
in.
and preparation meets.
Yeah,
It's-
for sure. Sure.
And to just underline this, it's like the initial point I wanted to bring out is just all
Okay.
of the odds are stacked against us in terms
I need
of
20 XP.
Korea
level.
and and China creating those teams that are gonna be the outliers that win. But even though those odds are stacked against us, there's some odds there, and it just needs to be approached in a very creative
Imagine you die
way,
with
and
all
the
these
stars
planets around.
need
Dude, that'd be
to
crazy.
align. And
That'd be
sometimes
sad.
you have teams
I mean,
like
I
JDG,
could.
but
The
there's
thing
a
is,
chance
like, I'm
that
doing
maybe
big
something falls
pulls.
apart. You know, it's like
Yeah.
sometimes someone breaks a
And
hand.
there's already
or-
low damaging
It's not
abilities
unheard
stuff
of
using
that
at level
fucking
a
34.
team
14. I'm gonna have a
completely
hard time
chokes
getting
it
them to
and
60.
becomes a lot worse. There's different patches. There's like a lot of things that can go wrong, honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of the game, and that's a perfect segue to
There we go.
Fnatic calling up
I leveled.
Wunder. Now that's
Beauty
a
of the
free
game.
case.
It's true, yeah.
Oh
It's
shit!
true.
Alright, I gotta spin my mana
how-
pretty.
What were you doing at the
That's
time?
gonna spam the
was
fuck
this-
out of shit, I think.
This was the Baldur's Gate time? No, what was going on during this time?
So Hardcore was just released, I think.
Okay,
Like, I mean, like 2 days after Hardcore was released. I think.
that shit sucks, no? So it's like you saved yourself from that.
I mean, I played a little bit, but no, I think. I mean, yeah, I mean, like, I guess like 3 weeks prior to that, I was playing like a decent bit of solo queue. I looked at the patch notes as well, and I saw like, oh shit, Akali is
like
getting
Safer End.
buffed. Like it's
I'm fine without
actually,
it.
it's actually laneable now in solo
Three
queue, you know.
autos.
So I was like, oh, I'll play some Akali.
Fuck.
I was
4
talking a
autos.
bit to Shaves every now and then, and he likes to like pitch his ideas as
Yes,
well. And
yes.
he sometimes keeps me updated on
thorns.
like not what's going on in the team, but kind of like how they're doing or if they're struggling with
Ah.
something. I'm
I need
like,
to run away
okay,
from
yeah,
that.
I mean that sounds cool. And then I think Shaves was the first one to approach me
Resist.
about like how, well, basically how their situation was
Mm-hmm.
and what happened with Oscar's hand and stuff like that, right? And initially, I don't know if it was like language barrier or they actually wanted me to play the Excel series or the potential Excel series, but this was like he wrote me 2 days before the Excel
yes.
series, and
I am
Javi,
missing out on the in-depth
the general
complexities
manager
of
from
level
Fnatic
1 to
wrote me
20
a day before the Excel series.
by ridding myself
Okay.
of the experience.
But for initially, I actually thought Shaves wanted me to play that Excel series, and then actually said no because I was like, with the amount of
I can't
practice
believe
that I
I've done
haven't had and preparation, I don't feel comfortable just risking. Not like, I mean, it's not like risking my career as much, but in theory, it is
Consciousness,
like risking my
Jesus
career
Christ.
if I get absolutely shit stomped.
No, of course.
I was not comfortable doing that with like a time frame of 1 day, and probably it's actually no practice if it's like a day before. And then later I found out that it was against BDS that they wanted me to play, and I was still, I mean, of course, like I'm still really hesitant because, playing like just, I mean, I had 3 days of practice. and I'm subbing in for a team. I'm not exactly sure what to expect, but I just decided to go for it anyways. And I don't know, like a part of me was like hoping that Fnatic just loses to XL, and a part of me was
Holy
hoping that
fuck.
they were gonna win and that I was gonna play because I was really on the fence, you know.
Yeah.
And even like the first day when I arrived and just played some solo queue and like I got the vibes of
Damn.
the team.
All right, he
I was
tagged
really
on. He's
unsure
got
if
all
I
of
made
them.
the right choice, you know. Like it was even like I was like
I just
kind
don't wanna
of a
pull
battle
threat.
in my head, you know. Like was it actually correct to do this?
I see.
Oh shit.
But yeah, I mean everyone was like
This is
I
big though,
was
because I can
afraid
tab
of maybe
Moonfire.
like
Fuck.
the team feeling like that it's just lost, and there was no reason for me to have come here in the first place because I really wanted to like I was working really fucking hard to like make sure that I was gonna be up to speed on everything. So I just wanted to like I just hope that it would be replicated by other people as well, right? And yeah, I mean preparing against like I mean, I don't know if you have another question to that, but like, I mean, preparing against Adam, I guess is what I would talk about.
No, you can. We will unfold this in whatever way it comes to mind. So, preparing against Adam.
Yeah, I mean,
man. Something's
I
gonna go
always
wrong
felt
here. I already
like-
know it.
I mean, of course, there's like a lot of like people that like the narratives and the history,
Some
right?
type of threat drop and
playing
dead.
for a world spot, all this kind of stuff, right? Against Adam.
Fuck it. Send it.
But I always felt like preparing, like if there was one series I should go into, I mean I think against XL would have been fine too with like a week of preparation because I feel like although he's like really good on his champs of course, but he's always been a lot more limited champ pool wise than some other players, right?
Yeah.
So I would kind of know what to expect going into play with him. And the same kind of would be like the same I kind of felt against Adam, where of course I mean, if I shit the bed right, he will take advantage of that because he is like a player that he can exploit.
He's a squeezer.
He can squeeze the matchups because he's played them so much, and if you haven't had similar experience or just like experience in what to do against it, right? But at the same time, I felt like it was kind of easy to prepare against him because. I mean, I knew that they would never gonna end up banning Renekton. So if I just left everything open, and I either played into his Renekton, or played Renekton myself,
60%.
the only thing I actually had to prepare, besides like the one curveball
Alright.
Jax that he actually had played one game before, but I didn't
I
expect
don't have a lot of
to pick
mana
with
for this.
all his champions that he
Alright.
likes to play into
Fuck
Renekton
it.
open, right? But the only champs I had to prepare for
Trying to
was
get these guys
Renekton
low.
into Darius, Renekton into Olaf, just Renekton matchups basically, right? And I felt pretty confident, and I also got like, I did 1v1s against Broken Blade this week. We talked a lot about the matchups, and I've watched a lot of VODs and everything.
Oh, BB must have been perfect for that. He plays all of that shit.
don't even know
right?
if
He
I
played
did
that.
Darius
Yeah,
a lot,
I
and
mean-
Olaf.
Yeah, I mean the joke was that like when
52. I'm not getting full
when we then
XP.
like when I went into lobby with him, he said,
maybe-
"Do you want me to
is
play
50
this
is
like
that
Adam,
right?
like the lethal tempo
60
Darius
per?
and everything?"
Hmm.
And I was like, "Yeah, I mean,
That might
sure,
actually
that
be
would be
right.
ideal." And honestly, every single game that matchup, Broken Blade was just like he was completely fucked level
No,
3
it's not.
because he was like going completely crazy, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like.
yeah.
And I was like, and that honestly, it gave me a lot of confidence. I mean, I know that
116
he was, like, he
Yeah,
was
there's some
trying to
damage
like
coming out.
push
I don't know if
it
it's
really.
like
He was trying to
retribution
squeeze
aura,
it, you know,
maybe.
right? So I'm not
Some
saying
type
that
of
Broken Blade
reflect
shit or
damage is
anything like
taking
that,
a couple percentage away, and I'm not dealing them.
but it gave me a lot of confidence that I know that if he goes like completely apeshit crazy, that I would be completely fine in these matchups, you know.
Hmm.
Thorns?
And at the same time, I
Do
mean,
you
if
have
he didn't,
thorns? 'Cause
then
they're
I
on
would
you.
also know how to play these later on, you know, like if I
It
would
had
not
to be retribution aura.
to this as well. So I was kind of confident going into a matchup against him, and the only thing was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, how it would work playing with the team and everything, which ended up being fine as well. I mean, we were for sure a lot worse week 1 than we were going into the finals week, I think.
Was the team because we had the conversation of the winter and then to spring, was the team that it is now, was your experience something that like if this was the experience that was offered to you in spring, would that be something that you'd pounce
Alright, I got
on? Did
Moonfires
you
up
have
across the board here.
enough of a feeler on it that you could say that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the team for
damn.
sure is a lot better. I mean,
I gotta back away
of
from
course,
those.
it will always
stuns.
be shade, right? But like, there's no secret that the bot lane is like a lot better performing than it was in winter, and even in spring as well. And I think alongside that, I feel like Ivan Razork is actually, I mean, performing like out of his mind, right? And Humanoid has like some really good, like in this meta, really good chambers that he plays. Like he's not actually limited in draft. In the past he would not like to pick up like the.
Hard to
I didn't see him. I didn't see him picking up champions like Tristana, maybe some Jace, but like all these champions that he plays now, it doesn't. He's actually like it works in the draft, you know. I don't know if it's just the meta or just the
he's done.
Fate he has in the team, maybe more so.
He's done.
That he is like more free to play these kind of champs, and I think the team just works like all together way better than it did in winter. I mean, no surprise they made finals, right? So yeah, for sure. I mean, the team is way more functional. There's still like some issues, of course. I think
Fuck, that guy
when it comes to like, they have more camaraderie than in winter as well, and maybe even 2022. But if I have to compare it to like G2, it still feels a little bit forced. But I think that's just like what we had in 2019 G2 or like 2020, even 2018 to some extent, because we got along well with.
I'm just gonna say
Jan and Anvedid at the time was just a little bit more special.
I feel like drinking would be ideal right now.
Whereas now,
whatever.
I mean, people actually stay in the office in Fnatic, and they like to do stuff and all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, it also feels like it gives me a little bit a vibe of it being a little bit forced at the same time. But I think that's just that's just normal maybe. Maybe that's just me coming in like 1 week and just looking at things from the outside. But yeah.
So you got called
it's
up.
faster if you drink. It's plus
Javi
rap.
say, yo, you're gonna play against BDS. Exactly,
Really?
you had 1 week, or
Would
you
it
say
be?
3 days with travel.
Alright, maybe you're right.
Well, I said yes, basically. I mean,
Yes?
I signed the contract
Alright, fuck. I need water.
with a clause that basically said if we are to
I'll
win
keep going like this for now until we get water.
the series against Excel, this contract comes into effect. I signed that on the day that they played.
Okay.
We did this for Grace for days?
It was sent to me the day
Alright,
before
alright, I'm down
because
for
that's when
that.
we talked
Ooh.
about it, right?
Alright, I believe you.
And then in my head, I was like, okay, I'm gonna play a little bit, but then I'm gonna like watch the series, and if they win, I'm just gonna
let me
spam the
start
fucking game, you know? And that's basically when my practice started.
Talents with
And then I had
the fuck.
travel day on their off day, which is like the day after they play. So I basically just traveled the day after I signed the contract. And then we actually had a free day then the day after that, just to like play solo queue and all that stuff. I think, I mean, I could say it now, I guess. I think the only option we had was to scrim G2. And I think
whenever you're
there
good
was
too.
made a decision that
Got the milky.
from mental wise, like also
Well, I'm
because
just
they didn't know
fucking
what to
permanent
expect
combat.
with
I gotta
me,
drink in between.
probably, or I don't know. I mean, they also had really bad results against G2. I think just usually with their main
Straighten me.
roster, that they just decided to have a solo queue day instead, which was fine with me. I basically told them I don't mind playing.
Yeah.
I don't mind playing. I don't mind doing anything. Just tell me what you want me to do, and I'll do it. You know, like I don't want to come in here and like make demands of, no, I don't want to play G2, or say, oh, I really want to play G2. I just make the decision as a team, and I'll just follow.
Alright, in this case, I'm gonna wear all that
But yeah,
stam
I mean
and
that's basically
spirit
the
gear.
practice I had. Then I
Or
had 3
intellect and
days, I think,
spirit
after
gear.
that,
It's gonna be way better.
until we played BDS.
That's crazy.
Ooh.
This contract that you signed.
Fuck.
You don't have to say exactly, but was it more on the basis as this is really good for the both of us? Was it lucrative? What was the basis of it? If you can.
Honestly, when I talked to them
Someone's gonna
about
have to kill
helping
this.
them out, I didn't even mention getting paid. Like I didn't talk
Alright.
when I said
Out of
yes,
combat,
I can do
please.
this. I didn't talk about like how
Still in combat and all.
like how
I'm
I
drinking.
would get compensated or anything like that. So I was not doing it for the money. And sure, they were really like desperate. It seemed like when they talked to me. So if I wanted to, I could have like probably squeezed them for more
He said
for,
die,
for like
die,
something,
die. What
but
the
I
fuck?
feel like it was not the time to like squeeze, you know. Like
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
they were in a unfortunate situation, and if anything, it will just look bad on me if I try to like
Alright, I'm wrathing.
make them pay me like insane amounts or something. But
That
then,
makes sense.
but I mean, I got the contract, and they were basically matching whatever I got before, just for like
Purple black.
per,
Short
for like a
campaign.
per series
Oh, okay.
basis, right? So I think it probably adds up to I get like a month paid salary if we play all 3 series, which we ended up doing, of what I had before. And I mean, I was not in it for that, but
Who
I
the
guess,
fuck? This isn't even
that's
tagged on me.
nice
Kill that
as
thing.
well.
Neat. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's been interesting to and really fun to see Ivan's growth over the year. It's weird because always I was like when I talked to him, especially this weekend, I
And I'm
told him,
moving in.
Ivan, that you going through the shit
Damn
of
it.
winter and spring was the best thing that could have happened to you.
Yeah. I mean, he is like very much more emotional than I am, for sure. And he has like things in his, like he lets a lot of things affect him that I wouldn't do, but that also makes him kind of the player he is at the same time. So, I mean, I can respect it. I mean, I joked a lot about it with him that where was this Ivan, you know, when I played with him,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
did he hate me or what? Like why is it not this insane when I played with him? But yeah, I mean, I think he has.
So 3
mean,
rats
for
plus a
one
moonfire
found,
is
like-
what it takes.
Well, he has like lanes that he can
shit.
more or less rely on. Compared, like he felt like a lot. He felt pretty stuck probably in winter, like having to cover for a lot of things, or he felt like he had to overcompensate in a lot of situations. Probably is how I feel. That he might not have to do anymore. And yeah, I mean he's gotten good at
2,
like some niche
3,
champions as well, and I
Yep.
mean overall, I mean he has been
Alright.
performing. I would say like the best jungler.
Yeah,
Of course,
agreed.
of course, Yike had, I guess, a pretty good series against us, the final. But I don't think that's enough to like make me say definitively that he is a
Oh,
better
shit.
player. I think Ivan has been playing really good.
There's a lot of
besides
people
that,
here.
I guess, series.
Maybe a different Furlbog camp
No,
would be better.
I agree. Like I even before the whole thing, I think in summer I just put like my all
not.
pro was pretty much full G2, but with Razork there, because I
Yeah,
think that
I guess that was like the general consensus, right? It was like
people put
some
Yike
people put
above him.
Yankos. Yeah, I mean, I'm
Too
just
bad
saying
hardcore
like.
Discord is it. Otherwise,
The whole
it'd be so
entirety
fun
of
right
G2 has been like the number one, but then some people have like put
am I the
Yike, because some
only one
people
who's
have just
ever
put
done
Yike. I guess like some fanatic fans
There's
have
a
put
less
Razork.
griefable
I mean,
spot in Westfall, and it gives better XP. Okay.
No, I put Razork up there, and like Yike got voted in, and full respect to Yike, but I thought Razork was
No,
the
far
better
from
one.
it. What?
I think it
Really?
was
That's
it was
crazy.
good for him to see what he missed in a way, and I think
I mean,
there
shit,
was
I'll
an
go to
added
Westfall
layer
after my
of
bear quest.
gratefulness when it was back again, you know, to have a bot lane that is a lot more functional, and it seemed
Yeah.
like he was a lot more aware of that after suffering for 2 splits, and it seemed like he wanted to give a lot more of himself into that, and he seems just a tad bit more mature about things. I will never forget that first month of working with Razork, and he say, Yamato, today is gonna be a grief day. I'm like, what the fuck are you saying, Razork? You say it's a grief day, you're gonna make 20 people that are working in this scrim set, you're gonna make us all have a grief day because of your state of mind right now? I remember. And now he has
Yeah.
grown so much. Evanchik is cool. Humanoid,
Yeah.
business as usual. Humanoid.
I think, I mean, for sure, like as I said, I think I would say he's like.
One.
I mean, it's always like that when you talk about players. I mean, when you say who is the best
No.
X, like who is the best mid laner or whatever,
I
right?
took it.
You don't
Maybe I
you
tagged
don't mean
Moonfire
that
too.
this guy, no matter what he plays, like what champion he plays, he's the best mid laner. It's just like overall, you know, on average,
yeah.
and like the eye test and everything. I would say it's probably been that for a long time, but I'd say, yeah, I mean, Humanoid has been probably the
I have no
most
mana.
consistently good guy, like good player on like the Alcir matchups and like this kind of stuff. I think where Caps has the edge is still like the creativity when he plays champs like LeBlanc, Ari, champs like this, you
Nico.
know? Nico even, yeah. I think he, like laning wise, Humanoid is probably a little bit better. Maybe not on like the LeBlanc or something, I don't actually know. But on the control mages, but I think Cap's ability to like not play as conventional and like play to his champion strength a bit more when he's playing really creative champions, he does better than Marek for sure. And then I guess like depending on what team you're on, like a player will be better because of that, right?
Yes. I always made the comparison, and sometimes people laughed at me, but I always saw Humanoid as just the European Chovy. Like,
Yeah.
now Chovy is evolving a lot, and he's like spreading his mid lane wings. It feels like most elite tier mid laners go through that process of first being like very dominant laners, very good at like dragging attention to themselves and like exuding pressure, and then there's this evolution where you realize
Did someone
where
bring some dynamite
you
so
can
you can
win so
tag
much
AoE every
more
minute? That'd be
through
huge,
other
actually.
avenues than just yourself.
So right now, I have
like-
to
Yeah,
get
I mean
30%
for
of the
sure.
mana,
Like if
right?
Caps in the
That's the whole
like
issue.
in the past
So I
was
have to give
way
him
more of a
60% in my
laner,
mana.
which
Yes,
he
yes.
still, I mean he still does. But even in the past as well, he was like the guy who would play like Katarina and Aurelion Sol and all these champions, you know. So it's always been like a part of him. But he was just like, I mean, not so far ahead because Perks was still there, but comparatively to like a lot of mid laners, he was like able to do both better, you know.
Yes.
But now I think there are
Oh,
more mid
that's
laners
huge.
that are able to contest that.
throwing weapons
And I think, for
trainer
example,
somewhere?
Humanoid,
Alright,
yeah, I
triple
mean, he can
Moonfire?
contest the
Damn!
laning phase aspect of it, right?
That's
He's
some big
like,
min-max
really
on
good at
mana.
it.
I'm actually debating just getting fucking.
So yeah,
improved
I mean, I
mana
think,
now.
of course, I'm not saying Caps is like shit at laning, but he,
How much
I
does
think
respecking cost?
Humanoid is probably one of the people that on certain
For me,
champions
pretty
will
much
do it
free.
better.
For sure. Like I think as you mentioned, like the meta aligned very well for him, considering I think
Yeah.
it's like
First
the
gold,
mid lane
first time, that was
champs
10
is
silver first
it's the
time.
goal is to generate the gold, and the challenge in that is like how you play around jungle and how you play side and so forth. And I think that Humanoid has always been very good at
Hmm. Why do
this.
you even
You
want
mentioned
improved
Azir,
rat?
Jace, Justana.
I mean, do you
It's
not
like
see what's going on on
you,
my
you
screen?
get the gold and you
Fuck
will
it, I'll
be
just
able
keep
to
going
be
feral.
so impactful. And if it was
Yeah.
a world where it was like Nico heavy, Ari heavy, Annie heavy, I think this is where you need to have a very strong eye for what sacrifices you need to make, and in order to like break the game. But I
Where's
think
my
a lot of
knife?
mid laners
fine.
struggle with that. It's just the question of Humanoid being elite in some aspects, and in some aspects just lagging behind Caps, like in that conversation.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
I think it's cool. It's like I wonder when Humanoid, if it ever happens, if he's going to go through that similar transformation, because I think Humanoid has the capacity to maybe
How long have I played getting
maybe
boosted? Well, I have a
in the
sponsored
context
stream
of
in like an hour,
like
and then afterwards,
like a year, which he has, right? 2021, winning a back-to-back with Matt, and this was a rough year for G2. You know all about it. He has definitely done that, right? But in a world where like achieving that gameplay where that creativity is shown, maybe not necessarily tied to Caps, but where that creativity is shown, and he makes a breakthrough on that department, then he could be really complete as a player. And watching Chovy now, like it's a weird example because I've had this example with Humanoid for like 2 years now, but now it feels like
Alright, they
Chovy
should all be below
is going
60.
through that evolution in terms of like recognizing how he can break the
Yeah,
game
I
through other avenues than being like 30 years ahead, where
Yeah,
Felix
I mean,
has
it's
been
like you go
consistent.
through
mailbox
the.
for more info.
I
Oh,
think
shit.
there's like always a middle ground, right? Like sometimes
Yeah.
Caps roams and it's completely grief, right?
yes
Sometimes having 10 CS more in the mid lane matchup
Shit, I have threat here.
could have been spent better elsewhere, you know?
Yes,
It's there's the balance that's it's just I guess like as you mentioned, Chovy is probably like a thing he's going through, you know? Like just
Yes,
it's
yes.
just like the most optimal way to play to win the game.
100%.
And sometimes that can be like a more farm-centric mid than just carrying late, which is like I think the style that Marek has historically preferred. Just like be strong in the game
Should I be
in
mana
your
potting
own
for
lane, and
downtime?
then
I just did it.
go into fights. And I mean, sometimes he ends them, but sometimes he plays them well.
Guy.
Like I mean, there's always optimization, but I think that's like the style he has preferred for the longest.
Yes, yes. It's fun to see that. Like Faker went through that evolution. Like Showmaker definitely went through that evolution after the Yo series, right? Where Caps is just like pushing every wave and like diving the Guri on cooldown, where you play like Rise into Irelia and Irelia can't breathe at all because you're a psychopath to be in that matchup in the first place. But
They invited me. Are they going to send me somewhere else?
there was, of course, the added layer of safety and that trust that you have for your teammates, of course, and that also definitely like reshaped how Showmaker approached the game, and Canyon and Showmaker. Like Showmaker became the player that was always on time and on point in terms of how he connects with his jungler, and that made them very great. I feel like it's always that transformation, but you need to first show individual capacity to lane at that level before it expands to anything else. And Caps' breakthrough was like that game against Perks where he plays Rise against his Syndra and like completely like shits on him respectfully, like shits on him, not in the sense that he just stomped it. No, it's like it was like really there was finesse to it. I remember watching. I did an interview and I said Caps is at the time. I think it was 2017 was his first year, right?
Yeah, it was.
And I remember I did an interview. I was like, Caps is the best like laning mid laner in Europe, and I got so fucking buried and flamed for it. But it was easy to see from outside. I think that there was something special there. So
yeah, there was a lot of hype around him for sure.
I wanted to. Like for me it was pretty funny because it's like I remember we had conversations like on stream. You said jokingly, it's like I remember this comment you say, if I played with Trimby I would get an insta headache. How has your experience been with Trimby and the bot lane? How is it to be in game with such a passionate man?
I mean, I think it was like watching like a mic check of like Trimby like completely screaming, and honestly, it was not actually like
my yes or no.
I don't know if he has changed or anything, but it was not actually like an issue for me.
Okay.
With how he was like communicating in fights or anything, I don't know. I think that was like the.
Now, what is the turn in
that
here?
was the reason why I said it, right? But I think.
I'm pretty sure
the bot lane, it seems like, I mean, of course, there's like issues, there's good things and bad things about everything, and especially when you have to work together, like in the same lane. But
Moonglade
I think
and
generally,
okay, so I should hearth to Moonglade.
They have figured out a way to play way better, at least like support
in Darnassus
jungle than in winter when I was there with Rox and Razok, but also just like.
No, it looks like it's Darnassus.
I think Trimby. He understands the game, and he also takes it on himself. You know, like if he does something that is bad, he doesn't want to like argue the point. He's like acknowledging that he could have done something different or done something better, and he just moves on and like tries to learn from it. Is the feeling that I get, right?
Okay.
He doesn't like. He's really fast to just take it on the chin and move on. You know.
Okay.
And it's not that stubborn in that sense. I think the only criticism of him when it came to stage games is like a thing that I feel like a lot of supports actually have, is that when things aren't really going as good, either for him individually or just like, let's say you're down in a series or something, right?
Darnassus, Moonglade.
I get a feeling that his response is that he like wants to make a play, you know? He wants to like bounce back like that. Which is like kind of like a Healy thing as well, I think.
Yes.
It's like you bounce back by like making something proactive happen, where that's not always like the right response, right? But honestly, besides that, it was like really, it was really fun to work with all of them, and Trimby included. And I think he is very professional about like how to approach the game and reviews and all this stuff. So
Oh, super cool.
Alright.
I think it's like the way everything played out. I think, like obviously the finals is the finals, right? But like from an outside point of view, G2 was a clear favorite, of course. And in my mind, I don't think it could have played out any
Trying to get a
better
team
in
for
terms of
fucking party animals
what you
Twitch
wanted
rivals.
out of it and what Fnatic wanted out of it. How do you feel in the aftermath?
yeah, I mean, before I was even approached, I didn't honestly expect Fnatic to even make it to the final.
Yeah, same.
I thought they could, and I thought that they would lose against G2 if they did, regardless. So, I mean, I thought, of course, they did. I mean, I think like everyone else, that G2
I
was
can
like the
carry.
big
Can you
favorites.
Starforge
I mean,
system?
even after
Oh, man.
See the Guzu death
helping them
yes.
sub in,
Golf.
I still knew that we were the underdogs.
Gotta get that lucky,
But of course, like I'm not gonna
lucky
like
level up.
go into any series thinking that no matter what happens, we're gonna lose. Because the reality is that on any given
Guzu
day,
hitting
like
a
it just
hole in
takes
one.
like one or
We'd
two
love to
games,
see it.
and you're
Best
basically
hardcore
won the
death I've
series,
seen
right?
yet.
And I
Pretty
even
up there.
think
For a content creator, this is basically
the series we
ideal
played
death. You die
against
in the
G2
funniest way possible,
could
and
have
then you get
easily
to build
won.
hype for round 2.
And I think it was like
Is
in
how
our
it
hands
actually
also to
is.
win some of these games with the
There you go,
positions we were in,
Scout.
but we just didn't like clutch it out, or we threw and stuff like this happened, you know. And of course, like we were maybe if we played 50 games, we would have gotten even more smashed, and could have lost more because they were the favorites. And I think
hell am I listening
on
to?
average,
I'm good.
maybe we should have lost, but it was for sure possible to win the series. And yeah, I mean, besides that, I mean, going into it, I did think the G2 was the better team. But honestly, a lot of
Seen Gray's clip of him almost
things
dying to a
in these
DC?
2 weeks
No,
have also
I did see
surprised
the
me
clip
about
of him actually dying and not
Fnatic that
paying
I didn't
attention.
expect.
And getting locked on the other side of a
With like
gate,
Trimby
dying to
included,
whelps,
and
and then
I mean,
yelling at
how
everyone to do
Raznak performs,
something.
and Humanoid with like playing like good meta champions.
Oh,
And
fuck.
for
That's
Noah,
fun.
like I actually always, I mean, I'm not gonna say always, but I actually wrote to Shaves about it because I wanted to. I was like pitching the idea of playing with Noah before Fnatic even approached him, and like I even like brought it up that maybe Noah would be a good replacement going into the splits to come. And then when he wrote me about it, they had a few options, and he wrote me about my thoughts about who they could have actually gotten for the team, like
oh, is
going
it just
into
bear form?
summer,
Oh,
right?
done.
Yeah.
And there were people like European players that had played
summon me.
before, and maybe some that would
Didn't
have
even
been
have to hearth.
like a safer bet. But I felt like Noah had like the biggest upside, so I just told him as well that I think if you want like the best chance of winning, you should. I would pick Noah or them, right? And I think besides like, of course, there's all this stuff about like him having jitters on stage and everything. I think
I really like the level warrior as a.
I can feel
good
that he's
class.
like really trying, you know, and he doesn't need. I mean, some imports need like a lot of security to, or
Nice,
like
we
to
got
not feel
Russell
homesick,
for Twitch
or
Rivals. He's down.
to like
Excellent.
keep
Alright, what am
grinding,
I
you know.
doing
But
here?
I feel like he's really
Ryan's
like
killing
trying
Murlocs, I
to
take
win,
it?
and this was like his rookie split, you know, and he
Crabs?
did play maybe a little bit worse than he would have if it was not on a big stage. But I
Crabs?
think
Okay, so
in,
3
like,
rats and then
overall
rank
he
one
also had like some
Moonfire.
really good
Seems
games
to be the play.
against BDS, against
One,
Mad as well. Like he was not
two.
he was not just choking every game, you know. He had
Shit.
like one really
Maybe a
bad
max
game,
rank
I guess,
Moonfire.
in comparison to his other ones. But I don't think he was like choking out of his mind, maybe as people like to make it seem like.
Okay. Well, he had that short stint, I believe, was over in LCK, right, with the KT.
Yeah,
but I
okay.
think something that I would imagine helped him a lot was just the fact that he actually spent time in the
Russell's
ERLs
good.
and
He is.
like spent time in Europe
Still gotta get a 4.
playing. I think you need. It's like it's a lot to take in at once for anyone that like for the first time moves to Berlin, right, and has a new environment. But it's even more so for someone that
Yeah, I'm just gonna
comes to an
rat
environment
spams
that is so
down.
foreign on so many aspects to do that on their own. Like I have
Fuck
experience in that with
Shit is
like
trash.
bringing over Mowgli, right? And I think that was there's so much that you need to adjust to assume that your level is going to transfer is a very big demand. I think when you have those imports that just click right away and like for example, like when Trick came over, right? Like he just clicked for him, right? And he just became an absolute machine. I think same thing could be said probably for Spirit too, but I think that people don't have a fond memory of Spirit, even though I thought that he was really fucking insane.
Yeah.
I think also for Huni ran over, like there was a package deal, right, that came over. I think that was also something that was carefully planned, but for the most part, it's like there's a lot of challenges in the adjustment period, and it seems like Noah is going to have like he seems to be the type of player that is going to just get better. That's the feeling I get.
Yeah, I mean, I think of course, like everything I say about I mean, they could have just been on their best behavior as well, right? Like I was I was only with them for like, I mean, I practiced with them for maybe like what 25 games in total, something like that, and we were on a road show, you know, things are usually like a little bit more loose, you know, and yeah, I mean, they are playing with a sub, so maybe in their minds as well, this is just like no matter what happens, you can just brush it off and say it like that, you know. And I don't know how everyone was during the entirety of the split. Like maybe Noah and Trimby really fucking hated each other, you know. Like I don't know, right? But when I was there at this, this was the feeling that I got. That everyone was like trying really hard, and yeah, I mean, I think Noah and Trimby included as well.
I think in the end it's like coming into those BO5s, that's where the stress level is very alleviated.
Oh my god.
So I'm sure that you're speaking mostly truth, of course, in terms of their character, right?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, from like, I mean, going into BO5s can like, it can be both ways, right? It can be like really stressful if you feel like you're not prepared, but I feel like you should always be of the mindset that
maybe that's worth it.
If something had to be changed going into a roadshow, then it's like too late already, you know. So you should just embrace that this is what we have. And yes. I feel like everyone was kind of doing that, you know. Like
got a drink.
As you said, probably winning against BDS already like exceeded what Fnatic had hoped for,
less DPS than
given the situation they were in, and maybe what even I had hoped for as well, right? Because of course, like if we lost against BDS,
oh, I get a new rank of.
They could have had any other top laner, and they would have lost against BDS. It wouldn't have mattered, right? So I could give them the win against BDS by me being me, I guess, and helping them out. Was already probably. I mean, for me, it was not right because I felt like Matt was beatable, and even G2 as well to some extent. They are not like completely unbeatable. So you always want to go further, but in the minds of like the public even, and also just expectations, this should already have exceeded expectations, you know, that we managed to beat BDS with like given the situation everyone was in, and maybe that alleviated like a lot of stress as well for them.
In terms of the coaching staff,
apparently they did. I don't know what that bug is.
Hiva,
pretty still in terms of builders. I'm just road
Baby. I know that Gax was there too from the academy team, and occasionally Freeze was there. Like that's a packed house. How are they working? How was it working together with them? I imagine that Shaves was working closely with you, because I know how Shaves works, and
he's fucking aggroing while I drink.
Best to prepare you. But in regards to how the structure of it all, how did you enjoy it, and how did they like to work?
Right now I can tab Moonfire.
Yeah, I mean, I think in compared to Winter, where I think the coaching structure was, there was like a lot of what I at least considered like time waste, like a lot of like, there was like this classic, you know, basically what we talked